Oh man, the government is up to its tricks once again, finding all these wicked SCPs and trying their hardest to hide them away, but I am not going to let them get away with it. I'm your friend, not the government. So what if a lot of these anomalies are info-hazardous and could cause you and your loved ones great harm? What if they harm the space-time continuum or open a hole in reality, you may ask? Who cares? I'm going to introduce you to some dangerous and fascinating SCPs. Just don't snitch, alright? It's time for the top 5 SCPs that the government doesn't want you to know, part 2. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-5997. Remember amnestics? Oh, that's a whole can of worms right there, isn't it? Well, if you're familiar with the workings of the Foundation, you've probably heard about these mysterious substances at one point or another. Amnestics are hard to define because depending on where you look, you'll get a different definition, a different origin, a different set of ingredients and uses. In their most simple form, amnestics are the things the folks up top use to keep anyone who knows too much in the dark. Memory-altering stuff that can be used to keep D-class subjects from losing their mind after a particularly harrowing experiment, to neuralize any civilians who may have stumbled across something they shouldn't have seen, Men in Black style, and probably most importantly to keep memetic anomalies from spreading too far and causing problems. Information is power, and the Foundation wants to keep it secured, contained, and protected. You might be wondering why I'm giving this big spiel on amnestics, and it'll all make sense in a second. Well, if you remember any of this at all. There are many revisions to SCP-5997, all still retained in the case file in order to keep a very complete record of it. At first, they thought this SCP was just an ingredient that formed the basis of most amnestics the Foundation made use of. They didn't understand exactly how it worked, but decided that it was all well and good if it continued to be useful. Over time, though, they learned more about 5997 and realized that it might actually be a group or entity that produced memory-altering stuff, but couldn't figure out exactly what was going on. The more the Foundation attempted to examine what it was, the more it fought back. Researchers got close, but in the end, all of their information was corrupted and expunged, leaving folks with a patchwork record of things that might be involved and a staff member who seems to have violently given their life in pursuit of answers. See, there's a note from the O5 Council at the bottom of SCP-5997 that goes a little something like this. There are those who have criticized the decision to halt investigations into the motivations of SCP-5997, citing our policies against unnecessary concessions to anomalies. It must be said that these measures are entirely necessary. As an exophysical entity, SCP-5997 exerts a phenomenal effect on our universe merely by existing. Furthermore, it is clearly temperamental, difficult to communicate with, and documented to respond poorly to both investigative attempts and negotiation efforts. Therefore, the only alternative to our current containment procedures is neutralization, and beyond being near completely unworkable, the termination of an exophysical entity would have grave and far-reaching repercussions. Whether SCP-5997 is truly acting in the best interests of humanity, or even if it believes itself to be doing so, is uncertain. All that is known is that we have narrowly freed ourselves from a cycle of memory and forgetting that may well have repeated for as long as our Foundation has existed, or even before it. Our tenuous, limited hold on comprehension of SCP-5997's existence in spite of this is too precious to risk losing, and it would be all too easy for SCP-5997 to discover our knowledge of it, wipe it away once more, and render our containment efforts null and void. The actions of Agent Ferndale were certainly honorable, and he performed the ultimate sacrifice to allow us this information. But in one crucial aspect, he was quite wrong. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. 05-8. So maybe just leave it alone then. Coming in at number 4, we got SCP-4756. The first entry on today's list is kept a secret for everyone's safety. Every time someone investigates, things go wrong. So why mess with something that works, right? SCP-4756, however, is considered a high priority anomaly because anyone who figures out what it does might be tempted to perform deeds that would make God weep. There are two parts to this SCP, a humanoid form and a stone coffin covered in carvings. The humanoid form was discovered as a 7-month-old fetus and will attempt to consume any and all human flesh it comes into contact with. If it remains inside of the stone coffin, it will recover from wounds at a normal rate. Outside the coffin, though, it seems to regenerate at 5 times the normal rate of a human. Over the years, this being has transformed into many different entities, from the underdeveloped human it started as to an underweight adult to an extremely muscular form. At any point, this creature only seems to have 2 functioning organs, a heart and a brain. The rest is missing or useless. Upon further examination, the Foundation discovered a small journal in a hidden compartment of the coffin. Inside is an account of a father seeking supernatural aid to cure his ailments in order for him to take care of his family. This, apparently, is done through rebirth. Turns out the group he joined was a cannibal cult, obsessed with consuming flesh and being reborn. The rest of the journal is full of info hazards that may well convince anyone who reads them to perform similar rituals. Eating flesh, chanting, killing infants, and using their life energies to be reborn. Makes sense that they'd want to redact most of that. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-2521. Now here is a classic. 2521, or He Who Shall Not Be Named. It that shall not be named, or written down, or really communicated in any way that does not involve pictographs or simple diagrams. We've talked about this SCP before on the channel, and plenty of other SCP-centric content creators have done the same. This is a legendary anomaly, one that cannot be discussed lest it come to get you. It's an infovore, and its favorite food is information concerning itself. Anyone who writes down or verbally communicates stuff about 2521 will be sought out by this massive, tendril-covered creature and brought somewhere to never be seen again. It'll also take with it any documents or recordings of said information. The only way to effectively communicate info about 2521 is to do so through images. No text, just images. Symbols, pictures, diagrams, clip art, you name it. If it's not explicit, it's probably going to be fine. Isn't the human brain a magnificent thing? Through implied consequences communicated entirely via basic drawings, folks have figured out exactly what they need to know about this anomaly. If everyone was smart enough to see the images on its wiki page and nod their heads in understanding, we'd have nothing to worry about ever again. Unfortunately, there are plenty of dumbasses out there like me who need to explain exactly what's going on around them with words without fail. I've even made it my job. So good luck now that you know what's up. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-2439. An SCP so dangerous that not even the Foundation proper knows about it. This one is strictly for the D-Class. Somewhere in the expanse of Foundation test sites, there is a lamp. I'm not exactly sure what this lamp does, but Foundation researchers don't want to go near it. So instead, they send D-Class subjects as sacrifices and to clean up the messes it makes. Sweet gig. Because no Foundation researchers have entered the area in ages, and because cameras don't work near this lamp, there is a wall upon which D-Class subjects have scribbled some containment procedures. Apparently there's an eldritch monstrosity trying to break into our world through the minds of those at the Foundation, and the poor folks serving death sentences are the only thing stopping it from infecting the minds of people everywhere. So good on you, D-Class. But yeah, if this information ever made it to a mind that could potentially spread it further than the walls of a Foundation site, the whole world could be screwed. Good thing I didn't get into any of the details, right? And finally, at number 1, we've got SCP Big Egg. A mimetic meme entry, SCP Big Egg is a big egg. All of the parts expected of a regular egg are here, but made to be bigger as to fit the description of Big Egg. Folks who interact with Big Egg notice how big the egg is, and tend to find themselves being unable to say anything but Big Egg for the foreseeable future. When measured, it was discovered that the Big Egg was big centimeters, and consistently growing when people observed that it was big. It seems that if one were to approach the Big Egg and say the words, Big Egg, something bad would happen. Just don't think too hard about the Big Egg. It's a joke. Probably. Keep an eye out for other anomalous breakfast items on your journey through the SCP Wiki. Failing to report such an occurrence could result in big consequences. Do you feel like you've learned enough top secret information for one day? I hope so, because I'm all out for now. I'll find some more, but it'll take some digging. And who knows when the government will shut me down. So, what'd you think of the list? Do you agree with my picks? What are some other SCPs that the man wouldn't want you to know about? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more heinous ones from the top 5 horror movie monsters that deserve your attention, part 2. Mary Conrad says AM from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It has to be one of the most messed up beings I've ever heard of. Imagine being tortured, maimed, mutilated, killed, and brought back for eternity, just because. That's a bona fide classic, although the short story is the best way to experience the tale. Roseanne Tracy says, my brother recommended Psycho Goreman to me yesterday and I've watched it twice since then. It's hilarious and I'm glad to see good old PG topping this list. A new favorite for gore and a ton of laughs, plus hunky boys. Ain't nothing quite like a bunch of Super Sentai monsters eviscerating everything and anything. And Janine Lockridge says rats. I can't stand rats. Oh, you must love King's graveyard shift then, eh? And that's all the time we have for today. I'm going to consume a Himalayan salt lamp in its entirety. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.